Hello again.
Hey,
You sound like it's 5:30 in the afternoon.
these children, they're running me ragged today. One of them just left.
How many
Um,
you have today?
I had two. Now I have one, just my own. But I'm just like, I'm so done. Like, oh, yeah. Okay.
Let's see.
What else?
Let's see if I should. Maybe I should do that.
I make a grocery list. Ugh, it's the worst.
Oh yeah, you got to make it as you go.
Yeah. And then it's like so long. And I'm like, I don't want to go for all this. I'm like, oh, I just need a couple things. And then I really start looking and I'm like, no,
Yeah,
no, I need way more,
always one.
always more.
I well before COVID, I used to not mind going to the store. I used to
Hmm.
go once a week or sometimes twice a week because I would just buy like little batches of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like now you got to go with like whatever if I need from cleaning to personal hygiene to groceries
Hmm.
in one.
You got to get all of it at once. Yeah. And I'm so used to like Eli going with me. Like he hadn't been to a grocery store with me since early March.
Yeah.
It's really weird to like,
I let the girls go in a store and they were like, we haven't been in the store in so long. And I was like, you're right, you haven't been.
yeah,
And they're
no,
like, can I go into that store with you? It's like, this is not a field trip.
no. Yeah. Like I was having groceries delivered for the majority, and only recently have I like gone to the grocery store and like tried to like acclimate to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's hard when you order the groceries online because they don't have every single thing you need,
Um,
because you can't order from like I need these few things from Kroger, but Kroger doesn't carry that, so then I need to get this from Target. It's like you have to just get one store. And like Aldi doesn't have everything I need. Kroger doesn't have it. It's
yeah,
just
they really, I did notice that they don't have everything you need.
they do. And I like Aldi a lot for certain things, but when you're trying to do like an actual big grocery shop, like they just don't have half of the stuff.
And then a lot of the stuff that you would want, I guess not want. I guess because they just have random stuff sometimes, it seems.
Hmm. Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
you didn't know you wanted is at Aldi.
Yes. I love that place. But I'm gonna try to hit Kroger like early. Early in the morning is when I go, if and when I go. What do I have tomorrow? Tomorrow's Wednesday. Oh, see, I can go early tomorrow. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, maybe it's just us. Wouldn't that be nice?
I know. I'm sitting there wondering, did I put the wrong thing? Wouldn't
No.
that be the first time?
My computer will probably crap out at some point too. It's been awful today. Just like internet on, internet off. Oh, somebody else. Hello, it's just us.
Who is it? Just
It's
us?
me, you, and Kate.
I don't see
Hello.
Kate.
I'm right here. Do you know you're already recording? You might want to stop and wait.
Oh, it's me and you. You
Oh,
and
yeah.
I.
We're talking about grocery shopping.
You're recording. You know that, Kayla?
So it's already recording.
So I would stop it. I would just stop it. And we
Let me stop
restart
that. Huh?
Yes.
Oh,
I just
Lord.
seen that red thing like it hears us.
So if you were talking shit about me, I'm gonna find out, just so you guys know.
We were talking about
We're
Aldi.
gonna delete that and not save it.
What date is this? The 24th.
I'm at the Bailey house because we only have one car, and I'm supposed to meet them at 6:30 in Indy, so I'm doing my call over here.
Mhm.
So I'm probably gonna have good internet for lunchtime.
Yeah, hold on 1 second, honey. This people.
How long? Hold on, I'm trying to load. This is not
Yeah.
proven to be fruitful. I'm trying to download the PowerPoint.
Do you want me to do it? Is your
I'm
internet
seeing-
just not good? What? Are you there? Is she already frozen?
I'm here.
Oh my God, their internet is so much better than my internet. Like, this is amazing. I'm just gonna move in.
How am I do this? People are killing me.
I might have to down. Your internet is so much better than my internet. I just told them I'm moving in.
Yeah, it's
Kate
gonna
says I can move in.
well, I was gonna ask, well, I guess I was thinking this was gonna be almost the end. Okay, can you hear me, Kate?
Yes, I can hear you.
No, I was thinking that this is gonna be the end
There,
of
Kate.
it, and we'd be back in the office. But I guess, I don't know. I guess we may have to, I gotta figure
Do something
something.
about it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kate Bailey's the best wife. She just brought me a cocktail. Do you want me to put the PowerPoint up then?
Yes, please, because mine just jumped out. I don't know if you guys missed me for those moments, but it just took me out.
Yeah, so then maybe if I'm doing all this stuff, you'll have enough internet that you can
Talk.
talk, right? Do you, what was the other thing I wanted to say? I mean, God, that like the clarity on the video, I'm like, this is like internet porn. Can you just make sure am I a host?
Is it recording?
You're still recording about my internet porn. Stop the recording.
I didn't start it back.
Oh, well, stop it.
Okay, so this is crazy.
Can you make me a host, please? Make sure I'm a host.
Yeah, that would be, oh no. Oh, whew, got scared. I thought I was letting everybody in. We have 12 waiting.
In 1 minute.
I just wanted to get everything situated.
Okay, I'm downloading it right now. Hang on. Oh, it still has mine and Eric's name, but they won't really notice that.
Well, I left it there because they still be working with Eric. But you had these two people here as the ones that led the info session.
Oh crap, I hope I brought my Mac. I hope I have PowerPoint on my Mac or we're gonna be in trouble.
I'm gonna head admit Eula really quickly, okay?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't do it because I don't have PowerPoint.
All right, well, let me see if.
But I can still do the video. I'm sorry, I didn't bring my computer.
That's fine.
Hi, Eula.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, doing well.
Eula!
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna let everybody in, Kayla, as you work on that, okay?
Okay.
Admit all.
No, it's just not starting, baby.
Hey, you can ask one of the other staff members to do the PowerPoint if you want. Hello, everyone, welcome.
Hello. Hello.
We're gonna get started in just 1 minute. Our speaker is getting the PowerPoint ready. She's having some internet issues. So do any of the other CASA staff on here? I unfortunately do not bring my work laptop where I'm at. Does any of the other CASA staff want to pull up the internet or the PowerPoint?
There's the.
That's going to be on for a little bit.
Where's the PowerPoint saved, Kate?
In communications, PowerPoint, and it's the one called informational session. Sorry, y'all. Just give us 1 second. Technical issues. Internet is one that I was just teasing. I'm at a friend's house and my internet's usually awful, and their internet is glorious here. So you all are crystal clear. How is everybody?
I'm fine.
Good. Well, while we're waiting for Kayla and Mandy to get the PowerPoint uploaded, I'd love to do introductions because we want to be mindful of everybody's time. My name is Kate Blair. I'm the Executive Director of Savannah Chatham CASA. Oh, I'm admitting a few more people in here. Welcome, everybody. So I would like staff. We have a few staff members. Since we have about 22 people on the call, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can, if you can mute your phone. If everybody will mute their phones, we'll do quick introductions, and when you are, when it's your turn, you can unmute yourself just so we can kind of minimize that background noise. I'm sure all of you have been on lots of Zoom and video calls in these last few months, right? Okay, so Mandy, it's in the folder called Communication.
Okay.
And it's called in the folder then PowerPoint. Got it? Okay. All right, so staff, if you want to just take turns introducing yourself, all of our staff members that are on here.
So I'm Mandy Roberts. I'm the Advocacy Program Manager here at Savannah Chatham CASA. It's good to see everybody here today, so thank you for coming.
Hi, I'm Maggie Smith. I'm an advocacy coordinator. I work with volunteers, one of which is Eula, who you'll be hearing from, and I'm so excited. She's amazing.
Hi, I'm Sharon. I'm an advocacy coordinator as well, and I started in January. Can't wait to meet you all.
I'm Tim Wright. I'm an advocacy coordinator. I started last year around about this time. Glad to meet everybody.
I'm Susan Renkavich. I'm an advocacy coordinator as well. Good to see everyone.
Hey guys, I'm Teresa McBride. I've been a volunteer for 2 years, and I just recently joined the staff part-time as administrative assistant. So welcome aboard. I'm glad you guys are here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kayla Williams. I am the Communications and Development Coordinator. So glad you're here.
I think that's everybody. I think I saw maybe Shannon, our intern. Are you here, Shannon?
Yes, I'm Shannon, and I'm the CASA intern for Savannah Chatham County.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody. And then we have Eula Parker, as Maggie mentioned. Eula will be speaking in a moment about her experience as a CASA volunteer. But you all today get the best of the CASA volunteers because she was our volunteer of the year because she's that amazing. So you are getting the best of the best to talk to you about experience of being a CASA volunteer. Thank you all for taking time today out of your busy schedule. We're going to keep it as short as possible. It will only go as long as your questions are. I'm just doing a quick introduction in the beginning. I'm going to hand it over to Kayla, who will talk more through everything that we do. But I'm going to real quick play a video for everybody. This gives a very quick, oops, let's see, a very quick overview of the program.
I'm gonna become a volunteer. What
Mandy, could you stop sharing your screen for a moment so that they'll let me share? Thank you.
just
All right. So if y'all just want one moment, if everybody can see. Y'all can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. All right. Well, we're just gonna do this quick video that gives you an overview and then you'll, oh, or not. There we go, okay. I'm sorry, does everybody hear the sound? Okay. None of y'all speaking up, only Mandy texting me that it's not working. Let me try. Hang on.
Hello, my name's Lisa, and I'm technologically challenged, so I hit the number, but I'm not seeing anything. I'm only hearing. Can you hear me?
So you're only hearing right now? I'm sorry, who was that? I'm sorry.
My name's Lisa DeMarco.
Okay, and you can't see anything.
No, but I'm technologically challenged, and I might have done something wrong. I hit the iPhone one tap, and I put in the password, but I'm not seeing anything.
Can you scroll? If you swipe your screen, can you see something?
No, it looks just like I made a phone call, and the
Okay.
phone number is
Oh,
up.
then that's why.
Okay, so you probably did make a phone call, but honestly, you'll be okay without even seeing anything. This is a video that we're playing. Now that I'll get the sound working, you'll be able to hear it and kind of understand what's going on. So even if you just stay on that, you should be okay.
Yeah, I thought I would be, but when
Okay.
you start asking the questions.
Right, yes, absolutely. And since I wasn't sharing sound properly. All right, everybody, restart. I promise we're way more organized than this. We're all shifting. All right, let's try this again. Here we go.
Growing up is tough for a kid. They have school and homework, practices and games. There are doctor's appointments and detention halls. The making friends and the keeping friends, discovering who they are and who they aren't. There's so much to learn. There's this whole world out there, right here. These times are transforming in someone's story, and they can really be quite chaotic. That chaos of being a child only increases when abuse and neglect fill their home. The normal winds of chaos are now a storm. And sometimes the storm is so great, a child must be removed from their home. And this is a really tough day. It's complicated and it's painful. When a child is removed from their home because of abuse or neglect, they leave their normal and they enter foster. The court sends them to a new place, a new home, often to a new school with new people, new everything. And all of these new things aim at a better life for the child. They aim to help in the healing process for the family. But it's still tough. They still have the school activities, the doctor's appointments, and the lessons to learn. But now court dates, visits with parents, and check-ins with social workers quickly bombard the calendar. And there's the pain of separation from what they know and where they feel comfortable. There are hundreds of children in our city who experience chaotic days like this, weeks like this, years like this. And these days, weeks, and years are difficult. They're exhausting and isolating. They're really tough. But there are ways to help, ways to bear the burdens the child is carrying, ways to make the days less tough. These children need to feel more supported. They need someone constant who is on their team, someone who is fighting for their best amidst all the shuffle. And a CASA volunteer provides this help. A court-appointed special advocate helps bear these burdens. They are the constant amidst the chaos. In the middle of all the shuffle and uncertainty, they know the child. There are still tough days, but now there's someone standing up for the child, day in, day out. Someone who knows both the biological and foster parents. Someone who meets with the teachers, doctors, social workers to ensure the child's needs are being met. Someone who speaks for the child's best interest in court. someone who the judge counts on for insult, someone who cares about the child and just lets them be a kid, someone who is there for the tough days, the great days, and the in-between days. This someone is so important. This someone is a CASA volunteer. And there are hundreds of children in our city waiting for a CASA volunteer. They're waiting for someone to speak up for them. They're waiting for someone to help weather the storm. Each child in foster care needs this support, this someone to count on. Be this someone for a child in foster care. Be their advocate. Be a powerful voice for their best interest. Be a CASA volunteer.
So that gives you a very quick overview of what a CASA volunteer is. And before we get into the PowerPoint, before Mandy, before you actually share that, I want to have Eula speak. So Eula, you will talk a bit about your experience as a CASA volunteer and just share what that's been for you.
Okay, thank you. I had to make sure I was unmuting like I was supposed to there. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm really thrilled to share my experience as a CASA volunteer. I have just had the, I think I'm coming up on 2 years as far as being a CASA volunteer. And to me, it was just one of the best experiences that I can have. When I say best experience, it's not, you're there for a reason that's not a good reason, but while you're there, you're serving a purpose that's so needed and you're helping so many children, it just makes a big difference. And I was fortunate to have a case with, I won't give the names of the children, but describe the case to you. 4 children who are in basically 3 different homes. I had 2 that was in one home, 1 in another home, and the other in a different home. And they're all in, had 2 in Augusta, and then 3 in Augusta, excuse me, and then 1 in Macon. So you had to travel to these children to get to know them and get the experience and find out what's going on with them. But the point of all of that was, it's rewarding to get a chance to know these kids. I had one young lady, the little girl, she was there in the foster care, but there at a home that was going to be her permanent home, but waiting on the process. The waiting on the process sometimes is frustrating for these children because they've been in care for so long. They've been in the system and they're tired. Like the video said, it talked about not volunteers, caseworkers. You have so many people that's in part of their life, but yet they don't have that stability there. So being that CASA has been that, you're supposed to be that constant for them. So no matter what's going on in their life, they know that they have you there, that they can call on, that they can, that you're going to be there speaking up for them. And so for me, the experience with this family, these children, has been a great experience because even though they were tired and frustrated, the oldest 2 were adopted last year. And then exciting part, I have 1 more of the siblings that's going to be adopted actually on tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that. It's been a long journey for these children, and we still have 1 more to go in that particular family. And that's just in 1 family. You know, my experience from being a CASA is like, you have to really want to be there for the children. You know, if you're going to volunteer to be a CASA, you have to make sure that you're passionate about what you're doing because you're affecting these children's life. You know, don't go into something saying, well, you know, I'll give you an example. I work at a bank, so I serve on a lot of different boards. And a lot of boards, they're all great boards and they all serve a purpose and they all mean something. But sometimes on these boards, someone says, hey, I need you to serve on this board, and you do it because you need to be on that board, yada, yada, what the case may be. But being a CASA is not like that. If you're going to be a CASA, this is something that you really take to heart because of all the things that I've served on, all the boards I've been on, the one thing that I say that I really find the passion for is being a CASA volunteer. Because when you do that, I've always said, if I can just make a difference in 1 child's life, then that's 1 child that has to bear one less child that has to bear the burden of all the things that life throws at them. But if you can try to help to get that 1 child and let them know that they're to get them to the point of being in a stable environment, a safe environment, and let them know that they can be okay because you're helping to speak up for them. And I have just had it's been a great experience for me. And let me rephrase it when I say great. The organization, CASA, is a great organization and it's serving a great purpose. It's sad that we have to have an organization to do this work, because it's sad that we have to have so many children that's in foster care. That's a sad thing to me. But it's so important to have CASA there to help these children to get through this process. And that's what, if you're on board doing this, that's what you have to think about. You're going to be making an impact and having a difference in a child's life. If you're not serious about it, don't do it. If it's something just for you to say, well, you know what, I'm going to put this on my resume, this looks good, whatever, I say, please don't do it. Because what you're doing is when you step into this, you're stepping into being involved in that child's life. And these children, I say this all the time in different things like that. Children don't ask to be in the situations and the circumstances that they're placed in. They have no control over what happens in their life. They have no control over being in an abusive situation. They have no control over being in a situation where their parents can't afford these different things. They have no control over a lot of the circumstances that they're placed in. They have no control over those things. So when you step into the role of being a CASA, you're there to help to make sure that they get that stability that they need in life. You're there, you're going to get involved in that child's life. And if it's not something that you're taking to heart, then you don't want to affect that child's life any more than they have to. They're already going through enough things in life. They're already going through all the changes, going into new environments, all of these things. Well, being a CASA, you're there to be that constant stability in that child's life. You're there to make sure to speak up for that child. And sometimes it requires you traveling. I've had to travel to see my children because they're all out of town. They're in Augusta and Macon, totally different directions in the state. But it's worth it because you want to make sure that those children are okay. So you've got to go to the schools to make sure that the children are they're okay in school. You've got to make sure that in that home, you don't just walk in and say, oh, okay, well, they check off, I've done this. No, you want to make sure that that child is okay. Because in that home, you don't know what's going on there. You got to make sure you talk to the children and find out what's going on in their life, in their situation. But you need to have them where they're comfortable enough with you that they will open up and talk to you about it. Now, in some situations, it's not always you have a child that's old enough to speak up. You may have babies, you may have children who have special needs, they have different circumstances. You have got to step in and make sure that you're doing your part to look into whatever that child's situation is. And I say a lot of times too, as a CASA, sometimes you have to follow your guts, because sometimes we think, well, that something's not quite right, but I don't know what it is, so I'm not going to say anything about it. No, don't do that. If you feel a certain way, if you feel that there's something that's not quite right, and it may be fine, but it may not be fine. And you may have taken that chance and risked something that pertains to that child, and you could have spoken up to say something about it. So you're there to make sure that you dig into everything with that child and that child's life. I like I said, my children that I've had, they're great children. I mean, they're wonderful kids. And fortunately enough, they have been placed in good homes. They were at the point of, when I took the case, I was told that it was really towards the end, and said, okay, well, these children, we're in the final steps and they're ready for the adoption process. And this will probably be just a few months, that it goes on. And I think I'll be 2 years on this. It was my first case. I just got a second case, but first case, 2 years on it. But I have no complaints with it, because you want to make sure that everything falls in place for those children. You want to make sure that they have everything that they need. And you want to make sure that you do all the research pertaining to these children, because when you finalize it, when you say, because the courts do look at you, you go to court, and the judge, he expects you to give your input, you give your report and give your input on what's going on with that child. You're stating that these are going into court records. So you need to make sure that you've done your due diligence, because the courts are depending on it, CASA is depending on it, but more than anything, that child is depending on it. That child is depending on you making sure that you are that spokesperson for them, that you are speaking up to make sure that their life is going to be stable, because any child wants, just like if you have children, then you know what it's like, or you're around children, any child wants is to feel safe and feel that they're taken care of and to be loved. That's normal. And children in foster care shouldn't feel any different from that. They expect the same thing that any other child wants. They want to feel safe. They want to know that their life is going to be okay. they want to feel loved. That's what it's all about. That's all it is. And if you take it on knowing that that's what you're going in there for, to make sure that you can make sure that that child is safe and make sure that that child is in a loving environment, then you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But I say as a CASA, you have to, it has to be something that you genuinely want to do. It's a volunteer. That's what it is. It's volunteer. Okay. But it makes a difference. I'll say this with me, I've been so fortunate. Working with everybody at CASA has been great, but I have a great, Maggie is my wonderful coordinator. She is awesome. She's great. I can call her anytime, ask about anything, and that's good. You have to have that person that you can reach out to. But then it's also great when you have a great caseworker. Kayla Harsh is the caseworker, and I have to call her name. She is awesome. If you get to work with Kayla, you can tell her, Eula said, hey, she's great.
Eula, you're setting unreal expectations right now. You have a really great caseworker.
I really
want to interrupt and ask you, just for everybody on this call, do you feel that because you've been in these children's life, that you have reduced the time? Do you think that you've made a difference in making sure that they have a permanent solution?
I hope that I have, Kate. You never know. You always want to believe that. And I really hope that I have done that. There have been situations where things that they need, and it's like, okay, well, let me see what I can do to make this faster. When it got down to the attorney, I said, okay, I know this attorney. Let me see, I can make the calls. Let's see if we can rush this through. We had a situation where they needed some documents signed. I said, okay, well, I don't want to delay this child's adoption time any longer than it needs to be. What can I do? Let's find a way to get a notary there so that we can take the steps to get everything taken care of.
She probably won't brag on herself. She drove 3 hours to make sure that notary would sign that so this adoption would go through. And that's what I think everybody's going to hear in just a moment from Kayla, is just the reason CASA volunteers like you, Eula, exist is because the system is broken and it doesn't always operate in the way that it should. And having one caring person to interrupt that space and to force things through can make the world of a difference in a child's life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
What you do.
And I guess my time is limited. I don't mean to talk too long about it, but I find it, being a CASA is exciting to me. Being a CASA is, I love doing it because I love to see if I can help a child. That's what it's all about. Any child that I can help. As I stated before, children don't ask to be in the environments and the situations that they're placed in. And wherever you can do to make a difference and help that child to have that love and have that stable environment, whatever you can do to do that, that's all I want to do. That's why I'm a CASA. That's all it is.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eula.
Really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. And as we said, as you can all see, now y'all know why she's the CASA Volunteer of the Year, because of the passion that just comes out of her about this. So we are so thankful for you and how you make the time for the service that you do. And I think Eula is the perfect example because she does have a full-time job. I don't know how she has enough hours in the day to do as much as she does, but she figures it out. You can't even tell she's also a grandma, so she also managed to be a and she does this, and so she's great evidence of someone that has a very demanding job, but also makes the time for a very demanding volunteer experience. So thank you so much, Eula. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Mandy and Eula, you can stay on if you want or not. We've taken a lot of your time, so you feel free to do as you please. If Eula's around later, y'all can ask her a few more questions too. But Mandy, if you'll go ahead and share the screen, and I'm going to hand it over to Kayla, our coordinator, our communications and development coordinator, and she's going to talk about what it is to be a CASA volunteer. And I am going to do what I don't do well and mute myself.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Eula has gave us a great launch pad for what I'm going to share with you. So next slide, please, Mandy. We're going to talk some details about what it means to be a CASA volunteer. So today we have 440 children in foster care in Chatham County. Actually, no, this number has changed. We're serving, is it 62% of children in foster care? Which what that really means is we need you, caring adults like you, so that they can bring us to serving 100% of children in foster care. Next slide. And this is a quote that we like to share, and it really sums up why our CASA volunteers and what they mean to us. There could be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way it treats its children. And keeping that perspective that they did not choose the situations that they're placed in, the environment they're placed in. We are to come into that broken system that we know of. It's got some gaps, it's overburdened, and do what we can to make the things happen. Be that help, like Eula was saying, and achieve permanency efficiently, quickly as we can, so that we can minimize their time in foster care. All right, so next slide. What is a CASA volunteer? So what CASA stands for is Court-Appointed Special Advocate, and they're volunteers that go through a rigorous training and are then appointed by the Chatham County Juvenile Court to serve as the CASA for a child in foster care. The child is in foster care because of many different types or variations of abuse or neglect, okay? So all of our children that you would be placed with are currently in foster care, you would be the volunteer that is assigned, appointed to their case to work with them. It could be one child, it could be a sibling group, but it'll normally be one family, which is a case, but could consist of more than one child, depending on if they have a sibling in there. Next slide. And so Eula touched on many things that because you are a CASA, you'll be able to do. When you get that appointment order from the court, that opens up the realm of how you can advocate for them. You can go to their school, you go to their doctors, get their medical records from the doctors. You're able to speak with counselors, their caseworker, biological family, any party that's involved in that child's life, to get a holistic idea of what's going on, what's impacting the child, how they're responding, what their needs are, what their wishes are as well, so that you can form a detailed report of what is best for the child. And like I was saying, holistic in such a way that we're gonna address their academic life, their psychological, their physical life, their mental life, and intervene and advocate on each of those areas. And there will be a time for questions at the end. I do just want to talk through a couple of these slides, and then we're going to open up the floor. So if you do have a question as I'm speaking, feel free to go ahead and put that in the comment box, or just hold it to the end and you can speak up when we get through with a couple of these slides, okay? So we will give you that chance for that. Next slide. And so some information that we have that shows that the CASA model works. So Savannah Chatham CASA is a part of a national network of CASAs. There's over 950 of them in 49 states, and we are one of the many that are in Georgia. And because this CASA model is widely adopted, before it was widely adopted, it was proven that it worked, because children with CASAs are twice as likely to find a safe, permanent home, half as likely to re-enter the foster care system, more likely to succeed in school, more likely to receive services to address their family needs, and they're going to have fewer out-of-state, out-of-home placements. And so these are just a couple of the data points that have been gathered over the time that show that what we're doing works. Like Eula was saying, you're the constant in their life. You'll know all the things that are impacting them. You're going to take that holistic approach. You're going to speak with all parties. You're going to bring that information to the judge because you poured your heart into gathering this information, knowing that what you're doing is going to impact their life, and it works. So we're glad to have you here. The next one, the next slide is showing just how, on another side, how it's going to benefit the economy, because 1 year of CASA advocacy costs less than 1 month of foster care. So just let that soak into what value you can bring, if you're only looking at the dollar sign. We're obviously looking at more than just the dollar sign, but there's that. And so one staff member supports 30 volunteers, which ultimately will serve approximately 75 children. So if each of you would just go ahead and decide in your mind that this is the commitment for you, will be that much closer to serving 100% of children in foster care in Chatham County. See, next slide. And so this is another quote we like: anyone who does anything to help a child is a hero to me. And you really are. Eula's kind of touched on the love. I don't have to say much more about that, but it takes a special person with a special dedication to become a CASA. And if you know that that person is you, we'll give you more information about proceeding and going through the remaining steps. But It means the world to know that you would give so much dedication to meeting the needs of a child and advocating for them. And let's see, the next slide. This slide here is about the CASA pre-service training. I believe at this point, we're gonna have one of the coordinators. Let's see, we're gonna have a coordinator to jump on.
I think Susan, who was supposed to speak on it, is having internet issues, so I'll go ahead and do it if that's okay.
Okay.
You're not here, right, Susan? Okay. All right, so in the pre-service, so some of the top questions we get is how much time does it take to be a CASA volunteer? Well, really the most time that you would invest is going to be based on the initial pre-service training, and then when you get your initial case, that's where most of your time is going to be consumed. And so I want to talk a little bit about the CASA pre-service training. So everything that you heard, you're like, yes, I want to change a child's story. That sounds amazing. But then you're like, how do I do that? Well, we will give you 40 hours of training that will get you ready to do that. 30 of those hours are what we call flex training. So so about 15 hours will be in person. Our next training will start in August on Thursday evenings from 5 to 8 p.m. And that's 15 hours in person. And that's at our DFAX building downtown. And then another 15 hours online. If you've ever done an online course, it's similar to that, where you have discussion posts and you read things and you complete some documents. So that's 30 hours of training. Then you'll also at the same time, which honestly is where kind of the rubber meets the road, the 10 hours of courtroom observation, where you'll actually go to the courtroom and observe court hearings. And then you will have the opportunity to get to see what a CASA does in action. And then after you complete your first year of training, you will then have continuing ed. You'll do 12 hours each year of in-service. We provide all different kinds of interesting in-service training that you will easily desire to learn more about, some things like how to advocate for them in the educational system, or how to just different things like that. So it's really interesting. So the next slide will kind of talk about the steps of that. Mandy, there you go. So before you become you'll complete an application and we'll interview you. So after today, if you like everything that we say, you'll get an email tomorrow morning about the link to the application. Some of you might have already filled out an application. And once we get your application, Teresa, who's on this call, will schedule you an interview. And so the interview is really, when we call it an interview, is really you interviewing us and us interviewing you, deciding mutually that we feel like this is the best fit for you. And then you'll also send it to, we collect 3 references just to make sure that everything you say is true. And then we do fingerprints and all of the necessary background screenings in order to work with the child, as all of you would imagine. If you have any background issues, that wouldn't necessarily make it so you couldn't be a CASA volunteer, but we would talk through those things with you. Obviously, anything that has to do with children would make it so that you cannot become a CASA volunteer. I see that Tina's asking, what are the dates in August? So we are, I'm sorry, I need to just check my calendar. We're gonna go back to Kayla just to finish up, and I will look at my calendar and I will make sure to tell you that date. Deal? And then, so after we finish that screenings and you pass all of that and we have the references and you finish your classes, then you have a wonderful swearing in, and hopefully all of you would be in person. Today we swore in 18 new CASA volunteers virtually, so they didn't get to meet the judges in person, but hopefully all of you would be in person. Hopefully we'll be out of this mess by then. But after you complete all of that training, you'll be sworn in by a judge, and then we'll be working with different coordinators to find you a case, and that's when you'll get started. So Mandy, go ahead, next slide.
And so that is the conclusion of the slides. Do you guys have any questions? Because that's pretty much like how you become a CASA, the process and the steps. There's not an age requirement. There's not an educational requirement. It's just a heart requirement and a commitment. We do ask that you make the commitment of at least a year. As you heard, cases can go on longer, but we do want you to sign on for at least a year. So if you're looking for more of a semester type thing or pop in on Saturdays, this is not that type of volunteer opportunity. Our organization does have some seasonal ones, but being a CASA volunteer, we do ask for that 12-month commitment. Any questions?
So before we go to questions, I want to answer the one that we already had.
Oh, yeah.
Our orientation will be, so the very first week of training will be August 20th. So that's 5 to 8 on August 20th, and then it'll be 6 weeks. So every Thursday for 6 weeks starting August 20th from 5 to 8. We also are considering, if you are somebody that doesn't work full-time during the day, during the week, you have to, we are considering doing a class that would be a Monday through Friday during the day. So if you are somebody that's interested in a class like that, you have the flexibility to do an entire during the day week of training. We're also considering that, so please absolutely let us know. You do need to be 21 years old to become a CASA volunteer. And I'm going to answer just a few other questions that we get most often. Okay. And I already see it. And Kelly already asked it, and that was the very first question I was going to answer. So as you heard Eula, she is talking about cases that are outside of Chatham County. More than half of children in foster care are Chatham County children. So all of our cases are they all begin in Chatham County. All of our court hearings are in Chatham County. All of our court hearings are in Chatham County, but that doesn't mean that the children live in Chatham County. We are desperately short of foster homes. So we always say this, if you are considering being a foster parent, stop right now. Do not become a CASA. Please, please, please become a foster parent because we need you. We desperately need you. So again, all of our children are Chatham County children. So all of your court hearings will be at Chatham County Juvenile Court, which is on, oh my goodness, it's been so long since I've been to the courthouse. I forgot the road it's on.
It's also Chatham Parkway, that area.
It's by the sheriff's office and all of that. Carl Griffin Drive. Thank you, Teresa. I'm so embarrassed that I forgot that. It's been 3 months since we've gone to the courthouse. Anyway, but our children are placed all throughout the state. We are in desperate need of volunteers that are willing to travel. If you have a child that's placed 2 to 3 hours away, 2 hours plus away from Chatham County, you will only need to visit that child once every quarter. So you'll go 4 times a year, but you will still check in and do FaceTime or other ways to check with the child every single month, but you're only required to physically go to where they're located once every quarter. We do offer a volunteer mileage reimbursement. It's, I think, 14 cents a mile to assist with those costs if you're traveling. If you have family that lives in another part of Georgia, that is a great thing to put in your application. So if you're regularly going to Atlanta or Athens or Augusta, Macon, any of those places, then we can try to match you with a child that's in those locations because you'll be more likely to visit them more often if you're going to visit family. So while we will take some volunteers that don't travel as much, we will take occasionally some. We're really looking for people that are open to travel at least 4 times a year to wherever the child is located. If you cannot travel and you decide to become a CASA volunteer and we are able to take you as a CASA volunteer, you will most likely wait longer to be matched with a child because obviously we just have to wait till that child comes into care. And then our other questions are, how much time do you spend each month working with a child, working as a CASA volunteer? We typically say it's about 10 to 15 hours a month. And because you are in the beginning, you're going to be doing tons of research. So that first month, when you first get the case, you might spend 30 hours working on that case, getting to know everybody. But we do have that. When there's not a hearing, you'll be about 10 hours. When there is a court hearing, you're preparing for court, and then you will. Sharon, to answer your question, we will be sending out an email tomorrow with all the information. She asked, how do we get in touch with you? Because she has to go to another engagement. And so you'll get the email tomorrow with the link to the application. Fill out that application if you're interested, and we'll continue to meet with you. Does Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so Lydia, you were a foster parent, but are you a foster parent now? You can unmute yourself so we can talk to you. I can unmute you too. Lydia.
No, I'm not at the moment. Like I said, because I sold my home and I'm in between. So I've been away from it for a year. So I'm not even with an agency right now.
Okay. So you cannot be a foster parent and a CASA volunteer because it's a conflict.
Correct.
But so if you are not going to be a foster parent for some time and you want to do this for a year or two, then yes, absolutely can. But when you become a foster parent again, unfortunately, you can't be a CASA volunteer. It's just a conflict, you know. Filled out the application, Tina. Yes, and so Tina, you will, if you already filled out that application, we will be reaching out to you and getting you scheduled for an interview. Any other questions? I know you all have questions. Normally we would do lots of introducing each other, but there's so many of you on the call and we want to be mindful of your time. So feel free. We have a bunch of staff on here. So
we had another question come in.
okay. All right, so who wants it? So what role do advocates play during a court date? Does CASA staff want to answer that? Oh, you all just jump in. This is what they always do. They know Kayla and I will just talk and talk.
I'll give an answer.
Go, Kayla. Give an answer, Kayla.
All right, so it's kind of a two-part question. So before you go into court, you do have to complete a court report, and then so that court report is going to include like the things I was mentioning. Everything about the child's placement, how they're adjusting, their educational status, psychological, mental. You would prepare that for the court, and then you would share that with the other parties like the DFAC supervisor, the attorneys, if there's a guardian ad litem, all terms that you'll be familiar with through training. You would share that report. That's the first part of it. The second part is during the proceedings, you'll hear everything. And at the end, the most important part for a CASA is when the judge asks if the CASA has something that they want to contribute to the report, add or take away. That's your chance to speak up on behalf of the child. And so you would be attending, not alone. You would have a coordinator with you, like a CASA supervisor. Excuse me, you guys. And they would be with you.
That little one, can y'all tell?
Yes, yes. And they would be with you. But that would be your chance to, what those things that you've gathered, the ones that you probably know best because you've had the opportunity to spend the most time. Attorneys might have 30 or 40 cases. DFAC's caseworkers, same, 30 or 40. But this family is your family. You are that one person for them. So more than likely you have something to bring forth to that court hearing, to that, I guess it's the court hearing. You have something to bring, and at the end, you'll have that time to present that. The judges like to say we save the best for last because they truly do value your input. And so that's why you're last, but not because it's not valued.
And I will add to that, our judges will often say that it's the CASA volunteer that knows, you know, you all are volunteers and you have one case. And as Kayla said, our attorneys and our caseworkers, it's not that they don't care, they just have so many cases. And you have that one case and you know everything about that child. And our judges will often say it's the next best thing for them other than them knowing those children personally themselves. And it's a very difficult thing for our judges to decide whether this child should return home with their family or where they should go next. That's a big weight for a human being to carry, to decide the future of these children. And we bring them a perspective that is unique to anybody else in the courtroom. And we work very hard to have very strong relationships with all the attorneys and DFACs, but sometimes in the courtroom, and we don't always agree. And we work very hard to eliminate personal bias and to reflect honestly on things. We are a reunification-focused organization. So more than 50% of children that enter foster care enter and then return to their families. Often children will come into the foster care system, and with the proper resources, they can be returned home. Poverty should not be a reason a child is taken away from their family. And so we as CASA volunteers try to connect those families to everything that they can get to ensure that they can bring their children home. Because a child, as you'll hear us often say, a child doesn't want a better family, they just want their family to be better. So we want children that are experiencing true abuse to find a better situation, right? So those are the families we're gonna move, those are the children we're gonna move into better situations. But children who are just in homes that don't have the proper resources, that maybe have generational trauma, substance abuse disorder, things that can be addressed, healed, and they can be brought back together, that's what we want to do. And that's the power of a CASA volunteer, to help bring that resources together. So I see a few more questions, because I could talk on that for a very long time.
Yeah, there's three good ones.
And I preach about it. So let's move on. So we have, at any point is there time there are new volunteers able to shadow more experience? Yes. So that is where court observation is. You will be shadowing CASA volunteers. You'll get to see it. You will feel still after you finish training nervous that you don't know everything you need to know, but you will have a coordinator that's assigned to you. So Mandy and Sharon both worked at DFACS for years before they joined our team. We still Sharon just this year. So she's our wealth of knowledge currently. We have Tim, who was a former probation officer. So he's very helpful for us on the delinquency side. So if you have a child that's dually involved, both with, so they're in foster care, but also have delinquency issue, Tim is our resource there. We have Susan, who had to hop off due to internet issues. She works with our family treatment court. So she's the expert in substance abuse, substance use disorder. So she'll be the one to kind of help you if you have a parent with substance use, and making sure you connect to the resources.
And in addition to that, I will add that we have a really strong network of some CASAs that have been here between 18 years and just starting. We, as a staff, facilitate different outings, but then a lot of times, CASAs themselves will host things at their home. So you'll always have that chance and that resource to connect with a more seasoned CASA if you want feedback or just want to tag on to their court hearings as well. So yes.
And we do also have a Facebook page that all the CASA volunteers are a part of. So you can ask questions there too. And she's sat, so Lydia sat on those court cases before. Are you required to see how the cases are handled as part of the training? Yeah, so we still do 10 hours of court observation, but Lydia, I would want to look at your, look at what your experience has been. So I think we just need to look at your application. Like if you've been like a GAL before, maybe there might be some exceptions to that. Like if you've done this, so I don't want to, I need to see the experience that you've had. We require anybody, even if they come from another CASA, to sit through our Chatham County Juvenile Court, because every judge and every circuit is different and they approach it differently. So we want you to experience our judges and how they, and we have the best judges in the entire state. 2 are leaving though, so who knows what we'll have. So, but it's wonderful. And how is the research done if the child's in another city? Great question, Yolanda. So a child, they're still a Chatham County child, so all their family is typically in Chatham County, so that kind of research is done. It does make it more difficult when they're in another city. Some of our kids end up in different states. That's really rare, and you're not required to visit them in separate states. Though Teresa has, her children are in Florida, and she goes to see them in Florida. So that's unusual. And Teresa, that's why she's our admin, because she's a rock star. So, you will be, you will just use the phone. You'll get a court order when you're appointed to a case. So you have a court order that basically says anybody has to give you any information you need. So like when you're getting medical records, you'll fax them your court order and say, hey, give me the medical records. They might argue with you a bit, but they'll have to give them to you. They're court ordered to give them to you. So you just have to get a little bit more creative. Foster parents are always a great resource. Most foster parents work very well with CASA volunteers. So we could just get creative. Yolanda, usually you just make sure you pick a day that you can go to visit them, and also maybe hit up the school or do your visits on a day that maybe you can visit them in the school or daycare or go to the doctor's office. So it's helpful if you have a little bit of flexibility, if you're able to take a day off of work or things like that if you were. Any other questions? Staff, is there anything you would love potential volunteers to know? You're giving up your hour in the evening. None of them are required to be here, and they still show up and sit there quiet. I think they're judging us, Kayla. I think that's what's happening.
I don't know.
I think they've already asked pretty good questions, so I don't have
No,
any.
those are great questions.
Yeah.
Hi, excuse me. This is Lydia Lockett. I do have I have a question because I've done foster care, and being a foster parent, I've been on that side of the system.
So you
that
know
side of it, and having you all there does help, and which is why, since I'm in between and not doing foster care, yeah, I wanted to do CASA because I've seen what you all have done and the help that you all have been to me as a foster parent when I had kids in my home. And I appreciate everything that you all have done to help the kids that have been in my home.
That's wonderful. Sharon, do you know Lydia? Was she one of your foster parents? No? Sharon was at DFACS for a while before we stole her, so I was curious. Tina, thank you, Lydia. That was very sweet. Tina, we just had an online training. That was out of necessity, not preference. So we typically just do them. They're all flex training the way it just all got moved to online because of COVID. But they're highly intensive and people go through together, and it's a really great, so we just had 18 volunteers swear in. And so the best thing about training is you get to know 18 to 20 people that are going through this together. And so you'll go through this training with another 18 or 20 people because it's highly intensive for staff. We do about 6 trainings a year because it requires a lot of our evenings and a lot of extra work. So they're not ongoing, if that makes sense. So still, Tina, so part of it will still be online, but you'll have to still go in person. Am I answering your question, Tina? You can unmute yourself if you want.
So the requirement is still 30 hours, whether or not it's all in person or all online. It happens at the same time for all of the attendees. So.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm taking a double course load for my PhD. So
wow.
I'm moving some of that based off of the date. So if I can lean in and anticipate the online training and do it, I'm just trying to schedule is all.
Sure. Yeah, so it will start August 20th, Thursday night. If that doesn't work for you, we are trying to put one together that's during the day. We're also open to doing a Saturday training. So if there's anybody that none of those times work, please just, when you complete your application, also email us or put it somewhere in your application, your preferences, because we really do try to do trainings around what people do. We just need enough demand to warrant it. So if we could have enough demand to do a Saturday training, we absolutely would, but we're not going to do it for 3 people because of the amount of staff it would require. So if we had 10 people that were willing to do a training, we would do it on a Saturday, same thing during the day. So just please put your preferences in your application or email us, and we'll be happy to work that, or we can just pause you until we have enough of a mass to do it that way. Does that help? All right, so Yolanda, so you finished your application, but traveling is a concern for me. So Yolanda, we understand. We are still allowing some volunteers that can't travel. So we'll just approach it with you in your interview, and we'll see if it would be a good fit for you. So Holland, can we see your pretty face? Are you still here? Are you here? Holland, here she is. Holland will be reaching out to people so Teresa will schedule it, and a lot of your interviews will be with Holland. And some of you might have already exchanged emails with Holland. So yeah. Any other questions?
I'll weigh in on something, Kate, since you called me out of my dark square here. For people that are considering participating, I've worked in a lot of organizations, and I've never seen such a beautifully supported volunteer organization as this one. You're going to have, this is for everyone on the CASA staff. You're going to have someone behind your back. You're going to have someone at the other end of the email. You're going to have someone to train you, to give you information nonstop. So it's unparalleled in my experience to volunteer with this organization. So don't be shy about stepping forward if that's part of your thinking, because you really can't do better than this as a place to volunteer.
Thank you. Thank you, Colin. So any other last questions? I see Eula's left on here. If anybody wants to ask Eula a volunteer question, she knows it all. So if you feel like you have all your questions answered, feel free to hop off. We don't want to keep your time, but if you have some questions you want to linger, we can linger with you and answer any last questions you might have, but we really, really, really appreciate you giving of your time for us tonight. Kayla, you did a great job of capturing what CASA is, and we really appreciate that. And thank you all. We hope to see all of your applications, and we have a really robust class. Yeah, so thank you. But we'll linger. If anybody has questions, stay on. If you're just nervous, you don't want to ask them in front of everybody else, we're still here.
Is Teresa still on? Nicole had a question about the turnaround time after submitting an application to when an interview would be scheduled.
I can actually.
Oh, yeah, Holland's still on. Perfect.
Yeah, she and I are coordinating, and I would say it's no longer than a week to max 2 weeks. There's a wonderful bounty of applications that are starting up, and so we're scheduling as we speak. So if we get your application in 1 to 2 days, then I would say next week or the following week is likely your interview would be.
Awesome. Any other questions? I mean, all these people, and this was the least amount of questions we ever asked. I think that means, Kayla, we were very thorough.
I know, and Eula kind of set the tone, so maybe we should. That makes it easy. You could have did the whole thing, Eula. You were great.
You guys are great. CASA, for all of you who are thinking about doing it, CASA is awesome, and the support that you receive from the staff is just amazing. So it is the best organization you can volunteer for. I'll say that. It's great.
Thank you. And it's not even because she strokes her ego that we made her the CASA Volunteer of the Year.
No, she just.
No, I just love it. And I love you guys. Y'all are wonderful.
Thank you. Well, thank you all. You all have a wonderful night. If you have any other questions, just respond to the email that you'll get tomorrow morning.
Awesome. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye. I'm finished.